I've been and who I am, all the ways I've grown.
This isn't self-help, it's a full-on rebirth. Welcome to Girl Wake Up, the podcast for women who are done playing small, staying silent, or living by rules they never wrote. I'm Amy Polacco, journalist, divorce and life coach, and freedom warrior, and I'm here to help you take your power back. Because the system isn't going to save us. We need to save ourselves. So grab your coffee, your courage, and maybe a few curse words. It's time to wake up. Welcome to Girl Wake Up, everyone. I'm Amy Polacco, divorce coach and journalist, and today we're talking about winning after toxic love. I'm so thrilled to have Jackie Miller here. She's the author of Winning, Rewiring Your Brain and Reclaiming Your Life After Toxic Love. I've known her for a while now. Her work's amazing, and she shifts the focus away from obsessing over the toxic person and brings it back to the person who really matters, who is the survivor. You know, her brain, her nervous system, her healing, and her power. And many women are still living in survival mode long after these relationships end, right, Jackie? And your book offers a science-backed, empowering path to reclaiming clarity, confidence, and a life that feels like your own. And you're a coach like I am. I know our experiences have led us to this work. Like, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to join you.
I loved reading, your personal story in there too. I mean, 16-year relationship, right?
Yeah.
How it happens over time, how insidious coercive control is, how hard it is to get out. I think so many viewers and listeners can relate to that. Do you want to talk about your story at all before we hop into some of the questions about the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I was together with my ex for 18 years, married 16 and a half years, 2 daughters. And like you said, the control and abuse was slow and, sort of calculated, and which a lot of people can relate with. The relationship in the beginning went really fast, and all the love bombing, all the things. And then after really our first daughter was born was when some really massive changes. Yes, there were red flags before that, but, it turned out that for one, financial control was a massive tool that was used to control me. And as you know, the isolation that can come along with that, and it keeps you in place because, when you don't have the resources, the finances, and then you couple that with the slow, demeaning, whatever comments and the coercive control, where I have this story about, like, he never told me I could never go out with my friends, yet there were these other punishments that would happen that would magically coincide if I ever went to have a glass of wine with a few friends, right? Like silent treatments that would go on for days. Or you come home and was that one friend there? She's awful. She's a bitch. She just, and you'd have to endure days and days of them ridiculing this one friend you hang out with. Or you get 100 texts and phone calls while you're out that how come there are no clean clothes for the girls? I can't find this. I can't, just not
always
leaving
a crisis,
you alone.
right? I was going to say, like, the isolation does not happen overnight, right? No, and they're not that overt sometimes about it. Right. I was just talking to a client yesterday about how, her ex is saying this about her attorney. It's the same thing, right? They want to isolate you. Anyone who is going to help you and empower you, or possibly might chirp in your ear that this isn't right, they want to get rid of.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And so, one of the fights would be like, I've never once said you can't go out with your friends. And then you think, and you're so confused because you're like, well, I guess he never has. And yet, your nervous system knows that there's this punishment coming if you go out. And so, when many of those things are going on in the marriage, the relationship, and then you throw in the financial control, where I had no access to any of our funds, any idea of where any of them were, and I'd been this really independent, successful, businesswoman before we met, and now I am a stay-at-home mom, which I love, but I was just, it got worse and worse and worse and worse over time. And to me, which I often hear, and you probably do from women as well, is when I began to see that I was worried about my daughter's thinking, that this was normal, that they were going to end up in a
Yes.
relationship like this, that they thought abuse, verbal, isolation, like control was normal. That started to really terrify me. And then the infidelity became so blatant that I was like, I can't do this. And so I did not follow the advice I give women today. I did not do my research. I totally filed for divorce on a whim, on a catastrophic night where we had a horrible fight because it was the only way I had the courage at the time, to actually go forward with it. But I went ahead and filed, and then the 2.5 year shit show, pardon my language, ensued. I mean, and now we know because we're so educated, and thank God women out there have the resources. Post-separation abuse was gnarly.
Right. And that's why we do what we do, right? Because
Yeah.
we don't want any of you out there to make the mistakes that we did, because emotions are powerful and you really need
Yeah.
that buddy who's like, hold on, I know how you feel right now, but this could endanger you in XYZ way, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. And, being a stay-at-home mom is such a noble and wonderful thing. It's also
Yeah.
extremely dangerous in our society, the way it is today, and the way
It is.
men use that as a way to control you, keep you, and trap you. And that's why I've written a lot about, getting rid of no-fault divorce and what that will do. But let's talk about, we want to present some hopeful
Yes,
advice
let's do
here
that.
today, right? I love the title of your book when you call it winning. And what does winning really mean, Jackie, after toxic
Sure.
love?
Well, yeah, I named it that. Clearly, it was on purpose, but I want to explain exactly why I named it, because it always felt like I was losing. And I'm sure your clients say this too. It's like they're winning. They're turning the kids against me. They're winning. They got the better gnarly attorney. They're winning. They at the last, ex party they drugged me to and told the judge, this thing that the judge now believes. It always feels like they're winning because they're willing to lie. They're willing to manipulate. They're willing to
And we play by
just
the rules,
and
right?
we play by the rules. And it feels so gross and it's so exhausting for us to not play by the rules that even when we try, half the time it backfires. And so it was literally when I was in the backyard of this little rental house I finally moved out of I was stuck under the same roof of him the first year of our divorce, which he loved. It was,
Which is, I call it the crazy time to my clients. I had one client who had to put a lock with a combination on it
Yep.
for her kids to get into her area. I mean,
Yes.
crazy stuff happens.
Yep, I had a padlock, I had a deadbolt. I mean, it was crazy what was happening in that house. And so I finally get out and I'm thinking, I'm going to feel free now. Hopefully the divorce will get better. He's been so awful. Of course, he's doing all the things, not turning over the financial documents, not doing the, dragging me into X party after X party, all the things. And I get into this house and my nervous system doesn't calm down and things aren't getting better. And in fact, I'm ruminating more. I'm getting more paranoid, Amy, frankly. And I was in my backyard, like pulling weeds one day, and all of a sudden I thought, I can't do this anymore. What's the way out? Make it stop. And it sort of dawned on me. I ran to my computer. I love to research. I am a science nerd. I love biology. I love chemistry. And I stumbled on some knowledge about how our brains change when we go through abuse. And so even when you've escaped this person, and even though they're still trying to, emotionally entrap you and entangle you in all of their chaos, I realized why it's so hard to overcome. And when you've endured this coercive control and some blatant abuse, some not so blatant, you are in fight or flight. I remember just this level of anxiety I had. My heart rate was always just a little high, always on a Tuesday at 3, my whole marriage.
Right. And so it's like living in that state takes a toll on your health.
Yes.
Like, the body keeps the score, right? Like a car may backfire and
keeps
somebody
the
else
score.
may think nothing. You jump, a cop car, I remember, was outside my house just doing a speed radar trap. And I was like, what's going on? Right?
Yeah,
That's
you
what
react to
happened.
those normal everyday things on a much greater level because of the environment you've been living in, because you've had to be hyper vigilant, even when, like I said, there'd be silent treatment for 3 days. Silent treatment is a very aggressive form of abuse. And so when you
Absolutely.
have to monitor that person's mood when they walk in the door from work and you're looking for eye movement, for energy, for, that's hypervigilance, and you live in that state for years on end. And so I became so paranoid that I started to think, oh my God, I thought I'd be free when I moved into this house. Now, when the girls are at his house, this is going to be his perfect opportunity to kill me because I'm alone. Like I'm not, I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
thought,
right.
that he would have me killed at some
And look
point.
at
And
the
I've heard
headlines.
clients
I mean, that is
look
not
at
an
the headlines.
irrational thought.
It's not, it's really not. And I just thought I can't live like this anymore. And so when I realized that this chronic state of hypervigilance and stress actually makes your amygdala enlarge. Your
Hmm.
amygdala is your fear center. It's your alarm center. It's only supposed to go off when there's an actual, emergency, and then it's supposed to calm down. It's been literally enlarged. It's hyperactive. It's now told your prefrontal cortex, which is the decision making, the rational part of your brain, it's the
Yep.
CEO, they call it. It literally tells your prefrontal cortex, like, stand down, I got this. But then it's supposed to switch back. It never does.
Right.
And then we have our hippocampus, which shrinks in the presence of stress and cortisol, hormones. And it is also supposed to help you regulate hormones. So you literally now have a brain that's no longer regulating hormones. It's not thinking rationally. And the alarm center is going off 24/7. I mean, no wonder we can't calm down and we ruminate. And so that was sort of the beginning of the like, aha, because then I learned we can heal it so it goes back to normal. And I'm like, I'm doing that. That's what I'm doing.
And for women listening, Jackie, I'm sure there are so many, what are the signs, do you think, that you are stuck in this state? Is
Sure.
it overreacting to things? I'm not judging at all. I've
Yeah.
been there, right? I'm
No,
just
no.
saying.
There's a couple things that come to mind. One would be I would read an email from him or his attorney. And the first read that I had, I heard and saw all these things that this email said. Okay. Like I would read it 2 days later and be like, oh, they didn't actually say that. Why
Yeah.
did I think that?
Right.
And I've had clients do it so many times. They'd be like, "Oh my God, they're taking everything, they're doing everything, they're flipping everything, they're winning." And then I'll read it with them, and I'll be like, "Well, actually, it looks like your attorney does have it under control." If you read it, and they're like, "Oh, you're right. Why did I think that?" So your brain is looking for the danger. Again, it's being hypervigilant.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah,
things trigger it. I remember even it was a few years ago, I had created this Yahoo email address for legal communication, right? And I had post divorce litigation, right? So whenever I saw that purple pop up on my phone, it was like, and I
yes,
that email account is like dormant. Like I don't even use it
right.
anymore. And Yahoo sent me something like, "Hey, you haven't checked your inbox in a while." But all I saw from afar was the purple, and I just started like, "No,
Amy, that's exactly
right?
it.
That's it, right?"
That's it. That's it. And so that's a really important point because that trigger is still in there. It's still in your brain. It's still in your nervous system, Amy. But what we can do over time is with a lot of intentional, action, we shrink the time of that reaction. So you probably, instead of ruminating about the purple email, for a day or two, you probably calmed down and then something distracted you and you moved on. In today's day and age, that's the goal. Like our nervous
Right.
systems are beautiful things. They're there to protect us, right? They're there so that when someone swerves in our lane on the freeway, we slam on our brakes. It's a good thing,
Hmm.
but and we'll probably always remember that the semi truck swerved in front of our lane,
Hmm.
but we calm down and we know that that doesn't always happen. And so that's the goal, is to shorten that reaction time. And to me, that was winning. I'm like, I can win. I can take control back of my brain, my nervous system, my mind, so I can focus on my future, because their whole goal, especially in post separation, is to keep you emotionally hijacked. That is the goal.
Exactly,
That's what we have to
100%.
win back.
My favorite line in your book is when you say that winning is peace,
Yeah.
right? Because it truly is. Like peace is priceless. I was talking to a client yesterday who was like dealing with getting, post divorce money back, and wants her kids to go to a certain school. But the reality is, many people give up money. I'm not advocating that, or
No,
assets or
right.
things for peace, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is extricating yourself away from the situation. What tools and tips do you give people? And I hope everyone gets Jackie's book and reads it, of course, but you might have someone who says, "Well, how can I relax when I'm getting these emails from attorneys
Right.
every day?" Like, what
Right.
tips do you give in your book for that?
Right. Well, the one thing like I want people to know is that you and I just talked about how we endure this abuse usually for, months, years and years on end. And it's sometimes there are big actions of abuse, but very often it's like the story you and I just talked about. There's some silent treatment. There's a backhanded comment. And that's what eventually, puts us on high alert for so long. It's like the death by a thousand paper cuts. And what I want people to understand is that healing will happen in a similar fashion. It will be small, incremental, chip away things. But I want people to really know that these small things are working, because my analogy is, you want washboard abs, you go to the gym, you do 10 sit-ups, then you do 20 sit-ups, then you do 30, and you're not going to notice anything on day 3. Even after the first week, you might feel it, but you're not really going to notice anything after the first week, sometimes even the first 2 weeks, right? But we know, we can feel the soreness. We know that it's going to get there. We have all this proof. We've all, been hyper-focused on exercise or whatever for years, or had it shoved in our faces. It is happening with your brain as well. It's just that we never learned this. And so I want people to know, one is, for instance, disengagement. We talk a lot about gray rocking or yellow rocking. But why? Well, we assume it's so that we can train them to hopefully stop texting us so much or emailing us so much, which hopefully it will, but we can't control them. What I want people to really know about disengagement, for instance, and when I say disengagement, I mean on the smallest, most micro level that you can, because we all know that we're often trapped in this, like the judge said, I have to respond in 48 hours or that whatever. So when you and I give advice like, well, wait till hour 47. If you get 48 hours, we always say, make them wait as long as possible. Or, I say, instead of giving them a full sentence, give them a thumbs up. Look for all those micro ways that you can disengage from this person. I mean, if you can ignore an email, absolutely ignore it. But why? Why am I telling you that? You're taking control back, not only in the sense that you're not responding to them, but in your nervous system as well. You're giving yourself just that tiny bit more space to breathe, to heal, to have some mental, emotional energy space away from them. And every single time you do that, you are just giving your nervous system, another second, another minute, just not engaging, as much to heal. And here's my sort of analogy with that as well. If you had 2 people that had sinus infections and went to 2 different doctors, and one doctor said, here's some pills, take them 3 times a day for 10 days, and they leave. And then you have the other doctor that says, you have a sinus infection, it's bacterial, it's bugs, I'm going to give you these pills, you're going to take them 3 times a day. You're not going to notice anything for the first 3 days. You have to keep taking them. It's killing off the bugs. You will start feeling better probably day 4 or day 5. And then you're going to want to stop taking them because you're going to feel better. You have to keep going, because then you're just going to kill off, right? The weaker bugs and the bigger ones are going to be there, and you have to kill them all off. Which patient's going to take their medication most likely? The one that understands why they're doing it. And so I want people to understand disengaging isn't just trying to train them to stop texting you so much or emailing.
You're training yourself in a way. And I think you're protecting your peace, right?
You're protecting
it is
your
like a
peace.
muscle. I often say that to clients in the healing journey, right? Is that it is not going to happen overnight.
Right.
So many of us, I joke with my clients sometimes, to not engage with your exes when you're fighting over or disagreeing over something, shall I say. We all fall off the wagon sometimes for a moment, for 5 minutes,
course.
whatever. Nothing's perfect, but I think just understanding is important. And
it is. And then giving yourself credit for it. So I'm like, this is a really big part of it. So if you've been explaining, and there are 3 hooks that keep us tethered, I always like to say, it's the need for justice, the need for validation, and the need for closure. So for instance, you gave a perfect example of some people have to walk away from the money to get peace. I ended up doing that in my divorce, and I do not regret it. And yes, there were times that I panicked because I was like, how am I going to survive financially? Now I'm 8 years out, and for me personally, I don't recommend it, like you said, for everyone. For me, it ended up being the best choice to get to my peace sooner, because that was just going to be the thing he took to battle for years to come.
Right. And the
And
control, the
then
continued control over
the
you.
control, he knew that's where he had me. And he loved it. The need for validation is to, he turned the neighbor against you. How can I make them see it wasn't me? He turned his mother against you, turned even some of your friends against you. And it just, again, it feels like they're winning, right? And so go to a group of other women who've been through this for your validation. If you're waiting for validation to try to like show other people it wasn't you or they're lying, it's a hook and it's a trap. And then the last one is the closure. Like you're hoping that maybe anything from them moving on with another person. And a lot of people wish for that, or maybe that they'll finally see, that they caused some of this chaos. That's never going to come either. And in fact, I like to give this example. My ex on a random text one day, 6 years later, says something about like how he's sorry for like what it all is. Now, you and I, it was not sincere. There was something going on, something he was trying to manipulate.
Something.
He wanted something. And so don't wait around for that closure, because sometimes even when it comes, your nervous system is still like, what's going on here?
Right.
And so, being aware of those three hooks and where you might be getting tripped up and staying, they're able to sort of keep you in the chaos, or you're even staying in the chaos because you're looking for, justice, for validation, or for closure, is really good. But also that mind-body connection of giving yourself credit when you just do the thumbs up and saying, okay, I did it. And there's a great study so many people have heard about, but it's the study with the maids. There were 84 hotel maids over 7 hotels, and they broke them into 2 groups, one a control group and the other group, they told them, which was true, do you know the activity you do every day when you come to work is equal or more than what the Surgeon General recommends for everyday exercise? So like you're getting all the exercise, burning all the calories, everything that the Surgeon General recommends just by coming to work. So they tell this group this and they measure them. At the end of the study period, the group they told that to lost weight, lost inches, their body mass index got better, like every one of them. And it was like, so when you acknowledge your work of what you're doing, you actually improve. It's like a cherry on top. It's like an extra freebie.
Releases endorphins, right?
Yeah.
We tell our kids.
It reduces your stress hormones. It, you actually think, okay, I'm healing, and you are. So.
And I think a huge part of the healing process is trusting your own intuition again, right? Because these abusive types, they are often attracted to strong, successful women, and they convince us to get rid of our jobs, to be stay-at-home moms, to close our businesses, to rely on them. I make enough money, no problem. I want you to have all this freedom. It can be a prison cell instead of freedom, right? But then they start, attacking you, taking you down from that pedestal bit by bit. And, like the movie Gaslight, right? They want you to doubt everything you're seeing, whether it's lies, infidelity, their word salad, right? And so I often tell clients, this is going to be a long road, right? Little by little, like maybe you go on a date and you see some red flags and you extricate yourself quickly, right?
Right.
Reward yourself, to your point, right? Like maybe we need one of those charts we used to do for our kids with the little sticky stars. Like seriously.
I love it. No, it's true. You have to give yourself reward, because it's acknowledging that you're doing the positive things. And also I will say, don't leave your brain unattended. And which I really mean that. So have some positive, uplifting books. I mean, oh my gosh, the self-help bookshelf I have now after going through that period, and also like the different podcasts I would listen to, the really positive ones, the ones about how to change your brain, I would just have them ready to go, already downloaded in my YouTube, so that my brain was never left unattended, especially in the moments I was ruminating more, because you'll notice the rumination starts to diminish. You asked that earlier. What's kind of one of the markers that either, you are in this hypervigilant state or things are getting better. And to me, it's rumination is definitely kind of one of the markers. When you're able to switch gears on your thoughts, or you just notice that you aren't thinking about that one thing on a loop as much anymore. So.
Right. Great advice. Thank you for writing this book, Jackie. It's fabulous. I want to move on to this truth or trap segment that I have. I'm going to throw out a statement that's a common assumption. You can tell me whether you think it's truth or if it's a trap, okay?
Okay.
If you still miss the person who hurt you, it means part of you still wants the relationship back.
Mm. Okay, so that is a trap. I mean, it may feel true, right? Because you're
Hmm.
feeling it and you're like, why is this happening? But that is simply a pattern, and going a little deeper into my sciencey mode with the intermittent abuse that
Hmm.
happens during the relationship, right? Because they're not always Mr. Hyde. They're sometimes Dr. Jekyll. I can't remember which one's good, which one's bad, but you get my
Yes,
point.
yeah.
So they're all of a sudden, right, comes the love and the caring and the adoration, or even the compliment, even if now we've graduated to breadcrumbs, there's
Hmm.
still that hope is the hook. They put some hope in there in the middle of all the abuse. And your system gets flooded with endorphins or dopamine, whatever, all the feel good hormones when they do that. And so that is literally training your body chemically to respond and to eventually want, or, kind of want that back, even in moments where they've left, where that it's better that they're gone. Your body
Hmm.
will still crave that. And let's not forget how powerful familiar is.
Hmm.
Familiar can be the worst thing in the world, but our brains love predictability. And so when we're leaving these relationships and we're going into the unknown, your nervous system will sometimes fight you, even if rationally it's better to leave, because it's like, we kind of know what's happening over here, even if it's
Hmm.
bad. Are you sure you want to go over into this space where we really can't predict anything? I don't have any data to predict with. And that's all your brain is a big predicting machine. And so don't underestimate the power of your brain and nervous system going, we could go back to that familiar thing. It's not good, but it's familiar. It's a very powerful pull. So you may be craving those small moments, literally on an addiction level that you didn't even realize that your nervous system
Right.
graduated
And I
to,
think
or
there's a
going back to the
fear,
familiar.
right? There's a fear associated with loneliness, right? Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm going to die alone with my cats. Like, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's
Many
not a
women
bad thing.
are saying that these days.
Not a
But
bad
also,
thing.
I think there is that additional layer, right, Jackie, of societal pressure, right? And
Yeah.
maybe you bought into that Norman Rockwell, like, family thing. I often tell clients, I don't think you're still in love with him. I think you're grieving the family unit, right? You see
Oh,
another
yeah.
family out at a pumpkin patch or whatever, hayride, whatever it is, whatever,
Right.
at the beach, and you think, oh, right, I used to have
Right.
a family, right? Or you look
Yeah.
on Facebook and you see all these photos of everyone and their huge families, and you're kind of
Right.
like feeling sad.
And that's when the selective memory kicks in, and then only the good memories come back in. You're right.
Hmm.
Things start to get romanticized, and it's a dangerous trap to fall into, because also remembering abuse, mistreatment, maltreatment, how they spoke to you. That's not a comfortable thing to do. And so
Hmm.
again, your nervous system's going to try to rescue you and go, let's throw those out. Let's push those way back, because it's really uncomfortable and hard to think about those. What if we just thought about all the great stuff for a little while? But it's a trick. It's a neurological trap. Yeah.
Right. And that's why I think whether you keep a list on your phone or you journal and you go back and read it, it
Yes.
reminds you of everything you've been through. Because honestly, ladies, probably some of the things you've been through, I'm guessing, if your friend told you she was going through it, you'd say, get the heck
Oh,
out, right? Right
yeah,
away,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The ick list. Yep. Make your ick list
Yes.
and have it readily available. So true.
So I have a listener letter, Jackie, from someone in my support group, and she says, "Dear Amy and Jackie, I left a toxic relationship almost a year ago, and everyone keeps telling me I should be proud of myself and moving on by now. But the truth is, I still think about him all the time. I don't want him back, but I miss the version of him I thought was real. And sometimes I wonder if that means I'm not as strong as I thought I was. How do I stop confusing grief with weakness, Barbara?" And I
Mm,
think, you know, narcissistic people show us the best version of them, right? They don't show up with a big t-shirt, "I'm going to abuse you later." Like, right,
right.
this is not really me. They show up with the flowers, the chocolates, the whole shebang.
Right, right, absolutely. And that what you're describing, Barbara, is it's a symptom of the trauma bond. I mean,
Hmm.
when they came in with the love bombing most often, and some people say it wasn't really like that, but if you think about it, it could even be when they play the deep victim and you get to be the rescuer and they're like, oh,
Hmm.
so to me that still falls in the love bombing category because there's this
Yeah.
deep emotion, whether it's woo, vacations and shopping trips, or whether it's this you get to come and rescue this poor soul. There's this initial strong bond that happens. And then once you're in and you're neurologically hooked and emotionally hooked, then eventually the devaluation right starts and the mistreatment. And what is really important to remember is that unfortunately, the first part was the mask. The other part is the real person. That the
Right.
devaluation,
Who they were at the end is who they
the
were all
abuse.
along. You're right. And they
Yeah,
target empathic people. I mean,
right,
I think these are, I always say to clients, wonderful qualities to have. I don't want you to give them up. I just
right.
want you to get better at spotting the manipulators, right? Because they go
Yes,
after people who are committed to marriage, who have values, who are often successful, who care about other people, not going to throw in
yeah,
the towel at the first sign of a conflict. Like we're a team, right?
right,
Loyal,
right.
all those things, all of us are.
Right, right. And so I think, yes, you're missing a version of him or an idea that you just said, Amy. You're missing the idea of this wonderful person. And I don't want to invalidate your feelings, but my argument is you aren't missing them. You're missing the idea of that or those moments when they were good, when they were bonding with you, when they were, treating you well. Yes, you missed that, but that's a facade. It was fake. That unfortunately wasn't real. And that's really hard to hear. It's a very
I
painful
find,
realization.
I'm curious if you do too, Jackie, but with my clients and many even post divorce, if I'm still working with them, are still grappling with that. And I can empathize with that, right? I felt the same way. It's like
Yeah.
you can't wrap your head around the fact that a person was so deceptive and duplicitous that, they were the one you thought was going to have your back maybe the rest of your
Right.
life and turned out to be the one trying to destroy you. It's a lot
Yeah.
for the human brain, as you explain in your book,
It
to
is.
grapple with and accept.
It really is. It really is. And so then, like you said, and your listener said, you wrap all that up with the grief and the loss of, the relationship. But I really want people to know you can take your experiences into the next phase of your life and they turn into wisdom. And so it's,
Mhm.
it's, it's not all for naught. Like
Right.
these are lessons that we learned in life. There's a community of us out there here supporting you,
Yes.
validating what you went through, what you're feeling. And this will turn into basically like wisdom, where you do encounter people. And like now I did not have boundaries before. And now I have these amazing boundaries that make me feel safe. And I used to think that like I had to become more of a bitch or I had to be
Mhm.
like, shut people down when they did things. And it's not like that at all. It's like taking on a new energy because of this experience I've been through, Amy, where I am just so trusting now of my own intuition and my instincts, or if something just doesn't feel a little right, I no longer have guilt telling people, no, I'm not doing that. And it just now has
Yep.
become part of the fiber of my being. And of course, it doesn't ever excuse the abuse on the part of the abuser. But I now look at parts of my journey as like, wow, I was able to develop into this stronger person who puts myself first, who loves myself because of it. And there's this point where it like ages like fine wine, like your experiences kind of
Mhm.
turn into wisdom. And I just want people to know with practices that are really, I call them easy or simple, but not easy. So when you go for walks, this is what I want people to understand. Again, it's the antibiotic story. When you go for walks outside to try to retrain your nervous system, like, did you know that trees give off these chemicals that actually
Mhm.
interact with your immune system
Mhm.
and they activate your natural killer cells and they fight off cancer and viruses? Like, so, when I tell you to go outside and take a walk, your parts of your eye are actually reacting to photons that only come at certain times of the day that trigger your body to know react to sunlight so that it really sets your circadian rhythm so you can rest easier at night. Is it a total fix for sleep? No. But so walking, when you journal, it is switching over, to the part of your brain that gets creative, and it lowers your levels of cortisol. And there's something that I think is extremely important, and it is thinking about your future and what you want it to look like.
Yeah, it gets
and
you excited.
Down,
I think, we see that so many women, in their 40s and 50s, starting businesses, even, 60s, like starting a whole new career, moving somewhere new. And the last thing I'll say is I love everything you said about wisdom. And I think to bring it full circle to the beginning of our conversation today is that you take that wisdom and you help your children not make these same choices, right? You were passing this wisdom on, and it's having an effect on your generations, I think.
Yeah.
So,
it really is. I know, having two daughters, mine are 21 and 18 now. We were watching a movie the other night, and the character on the screen, the guy was doing something really manipulative. And my daughter was like, he is gaslighting her, and he's like telling her that, and somebody's future faking. And now I don't speak ill about their father, but I will use things like movies or interactions they have with friends as opportunities to teach them. I tell clients that
all the time. You do not have to disparage your ex. You can show family friend who's a good role model. I know it's funny. I'm not laughing about this term, but my son turned to me one day and was like, I think that's coercive control. Like, and I was like, how do you know? You've been listening. But how can people find your book, Jackie?
Yeah. So it's on Amazon. So if you typed in Jackie Miller Winning, it would come up, but also at my website, JackieMillerCoaching.com. There's a tab there for the book, or JackieMillerCoaching.com/book. You can find it there, but it's for sale on Amazon. And I really hope it's helpful for people, because I think when we understand what happened to us, it wasn't our fault. It was the way our body's designed to work to protect us.
Right.
And that's okay. But now we no longer need that version of that nervous system. And it's time to heal it in a way that puts you first and gets you focused on your future.
It's great. I mean, we're all in this together. Every one of us who's been through this. What led us to this work is we feel this desire that we cannot ignore to reach back and help other women going through it. So thanks for being here, Jackie. Thanks for writing the book. I think it's great, and I hope all of you go out and get it.
That's right. Well, with your book too, Amy, Framed, I mean, I just love that there's so much validation in it. And so I just love that there are a plethora of books coming from all different aspects to help people,
Yes, I appreciate you recommending Framed to your readers in the back of the book. It's not, maybe not as hopeful and positive, but a must read nonetheless.
It is. The validation is key, and you have to see that other people are going through this too. And so for that, and all the lessons that you can learn through reading Framed as well are it's just a gold mine as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for listening to Girl Wake Up. I'm your host, Amy Polacco. If this episode woke something up in you, don't let it fade. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it, leave a review, and keep this conversation going. Remember, no one's coming to save you, so she did.